This is more of an update, but I just felt compelled to do this. So we did a segment on the last show about how the facade of the East Wing was being destroyed to make room for Trump's ballroom. Well, it turns out it's more than just a facade that's going to need tearing down. It's the entire East Wing of the White House. And not only is the entire East Wing of the White House being demolished, which, by the way, since we started this broadcast, the AP has reported that as of now, the entire East Wing of the White House has, in fact, been torn down. So the entire East Wing of the structure is now in shambles. National Trust for Historic Preservation warned that President Trump's planned 90,000 square foot ballroom would overwhelm the White House itself, which spans just 55,000 square feet. That's right. So not only did they tear down the entire East Wing, but this ballroom, is going to be almost double the size of the White House itself, which means really this structure is now a ballroom with a White House attached to it, right? The White House is now an appendage of the ballroom. This is now a catering and event center that just happens to have the president living in an attached structure next door. So once again, Donald Trump took time to guarantee us that this would not happen. He did make assurances back in July that the existing structure would not be meddled with.
With the current building, it'll be near it, but not touching it, and pays total respect to the existing building, which I'm the biggest fan of. It's my favorite.
Yeah, well, that, of course, is not the case. The National Trust for Historic Preservation, a nonprofit created by Congress to help preserve historic buildings, sent a letter Tuesday to administration officials warning that the planned 90,000 square foot ballroom will overwhelm the White House itself, which is about 55,000 square feet. We respectfully urge the administration and National Park Service to pause demolition until plans for the proposed ballroom go through the legally required public review processes. Yeah, I'm sure Stephen Miller really gives a shit about that request. Carol Quillen, National Trust CEO, said in a statement citing two federal commissions that have traditionally reviewed White House additions. Oh my, the federal commissions typically review these things in advance. Yeah, I'm sure this crew gives a fuck about that. White House officials dismissed the criticism as manufactured outrage, arguing that past presidents had pursued their own changes to the executive campus as necessary. Yeah, Nixon put a bowling alley in the basement. That is different from tearing down a third of the structure and replacing it with something that's twice the size of the existing structure.
I mean, it really is like the most ridiculous satire of what would happen if you got this gold toilet failed casino owner in charge of the White House.
Yeah.
That he would build some huge gaudy dance floor and rip down the White House.
Oh, yeah. This is the Idiocracy movie, like literally. They said that the privately funded ballroom will be a bold, necessary addition to the presidential grounds. For more than a century, U.S. presidents have been renovating, expanding, and modernizing the White House to meet the needs of the present day. The White House's rapid response team posted on social media, listing examples of prior campus construction, which we went into in the last segment. FDR had a pool in for physical therapy because he had polio. Nixon liked to bowl, so he put a bowling alley in the basement. Barack Obama added basketball hoops to the tennis court to sort of convert an existing tennis court into a basketball court. Truman did a pretty comprehensive renovation because the building was in disrepair. Never have you had anything approaching this. So to act like this is just one in a long list of repairs or renovations or additions is nonsense. First of all, this is not an addition. You are replacing a third of the existing structure with this gargantuan ballroom that's twice the size of the main White House. And here is a picture. This was in the Washington Post. There it is. Somebody posted on Twitter. They said this was what the fourth plane was supposed to do on 9/11. And Trump actually did it. That's right. So once again, just a closer view here. Yeah, that is going to be the footprint of the new ballroom, the approximate footprint of the new East Wing. Much larger than the actual White House itself. So that does corrupt the architectural integrity of the White House. Now, what can anybody do about it? Well, essentially nothing. President Trump's plan to build a White House ballroom has underscored an overlooked aspect of presidential power. No one could stop him. Our hands are tied, Rebecca Miller, executive director of the D.C. Preservation League, said. That's right. Now, of course, Josh Hawley, when asked about this, took it as an opportunity to own the libs again, saying, oh, now all of a sudden liberals care about history and symbolism.
Oh, my God.
This is an iconic building.
Mono, I will just say this. I made this point yesterday, that I hear all of a sudden from my liberal friends that they're very concerned about our history. Really, these are the same people who tore down every statue they could get their hands on in the last 4 years. Christopher Columbus, Thomas Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt. They didn't have any concern for history then. Now all of a sudden, like, oh, the facade of the East Wing.
Right, but you did. That's the point. You did. So, like, they do this all the time. Like, they'll trample on the First Amendment, and then they'll say, I don't want to hear liberals complain about the First Amendment because Biden censored people. And now you have...
All right.
Like, they're such little mean girls.
Well, not only that, fucking Cuomo brought that shit up on stage with Columbus. I mean, if you're Italian, do you really want to be represented by a guy who now, more recent court documents of the trials of Columbus in Spain, this is pretty recent, have been uncovered. And it turns out they found him a disgrace because even in that era, the way he treated the natives was considered disgusting. It was considered horrific. Even in that time. It's not even getting into, well, it was a different, not even to go to address the PragerU argument. Well, it was a different time then. Yeah, and they still thought that guy was fucked up.
Yeah,
so
right.
Is that really who you want representing you for your Italian pride? The Italians have produced a lot of incredibly exceptional thinkers and artists. I'm sure you could pick somebody better than Christopher Columbus to represent your people. Thomas Jefferson, I mean, I wouldn't agree with it. That is an area where I would say, yeah, man, I mean, it's fucked up. But people back then didn't think what he was doing was fucked up. Theodore Roosevelt, the statue you're talking about, I'm not aware of anything outside of the Museum of Natural History. It's not that it was Theodore Roosevelt. It's that was a picture of Theodore Roosevelt on a horse with a black African carrying baggage or hunting trophies on one side and a native serving him on the other. It was
right.
A statue
that's outside the
with
museum.
very clear racist overtones. It wasn't about Theodore Roosevelt. It was the nature of that particular statue.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And here's Donald Trump basically admitting, yeah, you know what? Turns out we had to demolish pretty much the whole thing. So that thing I said about how it's not going to affect the existing structure, sorry. Turns out we studied this with the best architects, and the whole thing had to go.
Topic slightly. I see you've got the model of the White House and the ballroom. Many people were surprised that the entire East Wing is being demolished because you had said initially that the ballroom would just touch or would not.
Well,
touch
certain
it.
areas
What
are being
happened?
certain areas are being left. We determined that after really a tremendous amount of study with some of the best architects in the world, we determined that really knocking it down, trying to use a little section. You know, the East Wing was not much. There was not much left from the original. It was over the course of 100 years, it was changed. The columns were removed, and it was a much different building. Then a story was added on in 1948, 1949. There was a story added on, which was not particularly nice. And the building was very, very much changed from what it was originally. It was never thought of as being much. It was a very small building. And rather than allowing that to hurt a very expensive, beautiful building that, frankly, they've been after for years. You have that. I brought these along so people could see, but
yeah, we know.
You know, there's a relative. Nobody's actually seen anything quite like it. I think it'll be one of the great ballrooms anywhere in the world. It's about $300 million. It's set to do many, many things, including meetings of foreign leaders.
Okay, first of all, I understand it's a big ballroom. Where do you come up with this $250 million? It costs that much to build a ballroom? I don't think so. If that were the case, how would any catering halls ever be built? Like, why does it take that much money?
The honoring of foreign leaders. You can see this. This is
this
a
the
plan.
chairs.
If it's got tables so that you honor
Yes,
a
we get it.
foreign
There's going to
leader,
be
we have a
tables and
proper
chairs
space.
in the
Right now,
ballroom.
we have
Wow. It's not going to be standing room only, huh?
Yeah, he holds up the blade. You see this? We're going to have tables and chairs. It's going to be tremendous. Very proud of the tables.
We're hoping to get it done before the dollar crashes and everyone is relieved not to have to come to this shithole country anymore, so that there's nobody to use the ballroom for.
Exactly. So ABC News reports the White House Historical Association said it preserved the East Wing's history through a comprehensive digital scanning project and photography before sections were demolished as part of the construction of President Trump's ballroom. So basically, yeah, we took pictures of the stuff there. So that's all preserved. Don't worry. If you like the history, we took some photos and everybody will know what used to be there. And now it's not there anymore. And yes, since we went on air, it is now official that the East Wing of the White House has been completely destroyed. And so I made this meme yesterday, which I liked. Which of these is America first? Spiking Epstein list, bailing out Argentina, demolishing White House, or bombing Iran for Israel? The guy
that's a pretty good one.
Yeah. The guy literally destroyed the White House. I mean, literally. I mean, this is like, you can't make this shit up. You really can't make it up. It's really extraordinary. It really is. So, I just have to add this. David Axelrod says, this image of the East Wing of the White House is a metaphor for broader reckless destruction. The ballroom that will go up there will be a gaudy monument to vanity, corruption, and excess. For anyone who has worked at the White House or cares about its rich history, it's a gut punch. And I just couldn't help but say it's actually a metaphor for oligarchy swallowing democracy. It's too bad your old boss was elected to right the ship after the financial crisis and instead let the bankers skate while prosecuting individual homeowners because he was controlled by Citigroup. Yeah, what this is a metaphor for how capital has swallowed government. Literally. I mean, you have big oligarchic companies sponsoring and are probably going to have their names engraved in this ballroom.
Yeah, it's NASCAR.
That's what this is. That's what this is. It's NASCAR. It's a corporate takeover of the government. And when are people like David Axelrod just going to hang their heads in shame and shut the fuck up? As if you are qualified to speak about this at all. All. I mean, it's just, I can't help but I just couldn't help but tweet that out. You don't understand that your failure to deliver at that key moment where capitalism was on its heels, right? People were really enraged at concentrated capital and at the rich. That's why you had the Tea Party and Occupy Wall Street emerge at the same moment. And your man, who was elected because of the financial crisis. Barack Obama was losing to John McCain, by the way, in early September of 2008. People don't remember that now. It was the financial crisis that won him that race more than anything else.
Yeah.
And he abdicated his responsibility, and here we are. And so guys like David Axelrod could have a seat about the White House.
Yeah. Hey, how many people showed up to that No Kings March?
7 million.
All right, so it's a lot of people to peddle that shit to.
It is. I guess you're right.
I talked to one of them the other day who took exception to my what I had to say about it, and I brought up, hey, Obama was the deport, because they were saying Democrats never did anything like Trump. I said, well, he's got a long way to go before he deports as many people as Obama.
Right.
Obama tried to get an immigration bill bipartisan. Every president ever in my memory tried to get a bipartisan bill on immigration. It has nothing to do with anything. They are still not willing to reflect. And you've said this, and I agree 100%. Until they are prepared to honestly reckon with Obama's legacy, which has been to destroy the Democratic Party, worse than it already had been. It's not that he found it in great shape, but he burned that party to the fucking ground. And yeah, he did open the door to Trump, not for the reason they want to tell you, that it's a white backlash. Why didn't the white backlash come in 2012 then? If there was going to be this white backlash, why to get reelected? Why Trump could not have won without all these Obama voters flipping over to Trump. What? They all turned racist
right.
Once they saw a black guy in the White House. It didn't bother them in year 4. In year 6, they started to get really angry about it.
Yeah.
Until they are willing to reckon with that, there is no way to reform that political party, because really their bread and butter are the libs. And until the libs say Obama fucked us, there's no reforming that group. You have to wait for them to die, which, I mean, frankly, they're pretty old, so there is some of that, but you still got to reckon with another 10, 20 years.
That's right. And yeah, it's not that there were no white people who had a meltdown over Obama. There were, but there were not enough of them to actually tip power
or
into the hands
he couldn't have won re-election
of someone like Trump. Exactly.
Those people weren't melting down in 2008. They weren't melting down in 2012.
Right. Like these things kind of occur at the margins. And the tipping point was when people realized that he did not deliver on the promise of being an FDR type figure. Right. And that manifests. And by the way, that kind of disappointment gives way to a lot of racial resentment, right? It's like people who may not have felt so resentful about brown people and immigrants because they thought they were getting a good deal. Well, once they realize they're not getting a good deal, now they become resentful of brown people and immigrants, partly because people who are in a spot like that, take some sort of perverse kind of comfort in beating up on people with less than them, which we've talked a lot about. But also, when the guy who you elected to be the agent of positive change ends up giving you the status quo cloaked in very woke language about inclusivity and tolerance, you then have a negative reaction to principles of inclusivity and tolerance because you associate that with the guy who sold it to you as a bill of goods. Exactly. That's all bullshit. Right. Exactly.
Hobbits has tricked us.
He tricked us.
Please clap.